I'm going to give everybody a mute. So there we go. Thank you again, everyone. Let's see here. I still didn't mute all. Oh, here, this is what we need to do. So thank you guys so much for joining us today. So excited to have you all. I just wanted to talk a little bit about a project that I've been working on. It's called Raw Leadership. So it's a management training course. And in this time right now, and in any time, really being able to take good care of your staff and your employees and lead them with strength and true grit and really help them not only be, realize the potential of your team and realize the potential of your individual. So every every Wednesday, starting next week for an hour at noon, grab some lunch, hopefully from a local, to get something from your local businesses, and join us and we'll talk about different topics. The first topic for next week is finding your true grit. Basically, it's finding your core values as a manager, and we're really diving down deep so that you can lead through core values and philosophy. So please join us. And then at the end of we'll get a follow-up email if you're interested with a way to log in or sign up. Thanks, guys. So I'm gonna send it over to Sophia. Sophia, would you like to take it away?
Thank you so much, Maude, and welcome to everyone. Thank you for joining us today. It's definitely an extraordinary moment in Earth's history and in our own personal histories. Definitely unique moment for our lives and our livelihood. So we all appreciate the time that you've taken to join us today to talk about these developments coming forth from Congress and the Department of Labor. Today, we're going to talk about the Department of Labor guidelines for small businesses during what many are calling Phase 3 of the FFCRA, which is the Families First Coronavirus Response Act, which was passed on March 18th. And then to give you a brief overview of the CARES Act, which was released on March 27th, last Friday. So our next slide, real quick about the Caputo Group. We support small and mid-sized businesses in transactional HR, compliance, liability, payroll, insurance, that type of thing, so that you can focus on what you are passionate about. In addition to that, we also engage in value-added activities like this webinar to help keep you up to date with the rapid developments in current events, and also to help give you the tools that can help you navigate the coming changes. And the changes are coming pretty quickly. It's like the ink doesn't dry on one bill before the next bill is passed. And certainly Treasury Secretary Mnuchin recently called this process, he likened it to a baseball game, saying that there are going to be various innings of this game as the legislation rolls out and is implemented. So definitely there will be more iterations with more appropriations and certainly more guidelines as the situation unfolds. So in our next slide, we'll just recap quickly what we talked about in last week's edition. We went over Executive Order 2012 issued by Governor Kate Brown, which identified business closures, identifying what businesses are essential, which ones are not, and then the adaptations to each type of workplace that was required. We went through an overview of HR 6201, the Families First Coronavirus Response Act, or FFCRA, again passed on March 18th, which mandated 2 forms of paid sick leave and also outlined the payroll tax credits as prescribed by Congress in an effort to meet small businesses dollar for dollar to offset the costs of the paid sick leave. Then we went into the 2 types of paid sick leave that come with the bill. So the emergency paid sick leave and emergency paid family medical leave, which were both temporarily expanded until December 31st of 2020. So at the end of that webinar, we mentioned that we were closely following the progress on the CARES Act, and no sooner had we finished the webinar than the next day the CARES Act was signed into law. So our next slide will just give us the basics on that. It was signed into law on Friday, March 28th. And then later on that same day, the Department of Labor issued the preliminary guidelines for employers and employees. Those guideline documents are provided for all of you on the website, and some of them also at the end of this presentation. I just want to let you know that the Department of Labor Q&A resource is a remarkably helpful document. Please read it, please use it. It can be a real go-to for you, as it was for us in preparing this presentation. So that's provided for you, and then the guidance for employers and the guidance for employees is also provided for you, and we'll be referencing those documents throughout the rest of the presentation today. So in our next slide, we see that one of the questions that came up about paid sick leave and emergency paid family medical leave was about how the two could possibly interact with each other. And the Department of Labor Q&A document clarified that. So basically what it is that employees have a potential total of 12 weeks paid leave. The first 10 days can be paid sick leave or any kind of accrued paid time off, like vacation leave or personal leave, medical sick leave that an employee might have under their employer's policy. And then the subsequent 10 weeks can be the emergency paid medical family leave. So with that one, the rate of pay would drop to 2/3% of the regular rate of pay for the hours that the employee would normally be scheduled to work. These two can run concurrently, but not consecutively, because the first 10 days of emergency paid family medical leave, are unpaid. So basically what the employee can do is they can start them at the same time, do the paid sick leave for the 2 weeks, and then possibly then go on to the emergency paid family and medical leave. And these are reimbursed to businesses through a dollar-to-dollar tax credit, for which the administrative infrastructure is still emerging day by day. So in our next slide, we come upon, okay, what happens if an employee needs to sign up for paid sick leave, for any kind of paid sick leave? And documentation is going to be key to this process for everyone. It's been said that the Department of Labor is going to issue a model, and certainly we will study that, and we'll support also with checklists and resources as they emerge. But things need to be documented very, very carefully in order to be able to access the funds and demonstrate that the business is in compliance. So what we need, we need the name of the employee. We need a statement that the employee is unable to work, including telework, the dates for which leave is requested, the documentation for the leave, the name and contact of the healthcare provider who advised the quarantine, the qualifying reason for the leave. And then also on the Department of Labor Q&A, paragraph 15 really goes into a lot of detail. They tried to think ahead and think about all of the what ifs, and what about this, and what about that, and what about this, and what about that. So definitely have a look at that document, because it can really help clarify a lot. In our next slide, we see the mandatory employee rights notice posting. So this is a poster which all businesses are required to distribute to their employees, either electronically or by hanging it up in the workplace, or both. And I've given you a link to the posters here. They'll also be on the website. but there's the English poster and there's the Spanish poster. And I know that it sounds really scary that it says by April 1st, but those deadlines have been extended a couple of times. So there's been a grace period for compliance with this, but this should be pretty easy to comply with. And just in the next slide, you can see, I just gave you, this is what the posters look like. So those have to be distributed to all employees and or posted up within, within the workplace. Okay, so in our next slide, we've got the grace period for compliance. And this is something that also sort of changes on a day-to-day basis. It was originally April 1st. Then it was extended to April 17th. Now it's been extended to April 30th. So I will be following the Department of Labor website daily to stay up to date on evolving requirements for compliance. And here again, all measures that a business takes to comply, as well as any reasons for non-compliance, must be thoroughly documented, because what the business has to be able to demonstrate is that they acted reasonably and in good faith to comply with the act. And this, you know, this compliance is necessary in order to obtain the relief funds. So like I said, it does evolve on a daily basis. This is the third inning. We're going to go into the fourth inning, so we will see how things evolve, and we will keep you up to date with any and all changes as regards that. So in the next slide, we've got the exemptions for businesses under 50 employees. So this is specifically having to do with reason number 5 of the paid sick leave conditions for leave, and it has to do with providing childcare related paid sick leave. And it's about an exemption for a business under 50 employees when providing that childcare related paid sick leave would jeopardize the viability of the business as an ongoing concern. So this could involve any number of scenarios. Let's say you have a key employee, like a payroll person that you know, your business just can't do without this person. It would quote unquote jeopardize the business as an ongoing concern, or cause the business, it says, to cease operating at minimal capacity. So what that exactly means is something that each employer, each business is going to have to document thoroughly in order to be able to demonstrate why they cannot offer the sick leave under these conditions. So we are waiting on further guidance from the Department of Labor on how this is going to unfold. And like I said, we will keep you informed of any and all developments regarding that. So in the next slide, we've got the 500 employee threshold. Paragraph 2 of the Q&A contains expanded guidelines and links. Again, they've really tried to think it through and, you know, go through all of the what ifs and what about this and what about that. Some of the basics that I can tell you is, you know, it's fewer than 500 full and part-time employees within the US or US territories, and it includes temporary, on leave, or jointly employed employees. And I know Hunter's on this call, so he could, Hunter, would you like to speak to this topic a little bit more?
Absolutely. Thank you, Sophia. Interesting that we had another definition come out. This 500 employee threshold question is being developed different ways by different parts of the government. So currently, Department of Labor our PEOs are qualifying as over 500 employees by definition. Yet on the tax credits right now, PEOs are actually not considered over 500 employees. So it's kind of the best of both worlds right now for PEOs, which is great for us and for our clients. Our clients can file for the tax exemptions. It's specifically stated that from the IRS that joint employers aren't considered in the threshold part. So all of our clients will be able to file for tax relief, but as far as being an over 500 employees, we as a unit have over 500 employees according to the DOL. So that keeps changing, and I'm sure they'll add more rules and regulations to that, and we'll keep coming back to it as those items change. So we're staying up to speed as best we can. Thanks, Sophia.
Thank you, Hunter. So on the next slide, we're going to delve into an overview of the recently passed CARES Act. It passed last Friday. It is the Coronavirus Aid, Relief, and Economic Security Act. And basically that came out with three major developments. So there's two types of financial incentives here for businesses. One is the Paycheck Protection Program, which are fully forgivable loans that will be administered through the SBA, the Small Business Administration, in conjunction with the Department of Labor. And these are fully forgivable loans that aid in liquidity for fixed costs. So that includes payroll for employees, it includes rent, utilities, and that sort of thing. The second category is the EIDL, the Economic Injury Disaster Loan Program, which are low interest loans, again, through the SBA, assisted by the Department of Labor. And they also include a $10,000 fully forgivable grant for each applicant, whether they get the loan or not. Then the last item that the CARES Act brought to the table was an expansion of unemployment insurance. And I'm just going to briefly, we're going to touch on each one of these really quickly. Like I said, we're waiting for guidance and developments on these topics. But in the next slide, let's just get a real brief view of the Paycheck Protection Program loans. Again, they are to be used. In order to be forgivable, they are to be used for payroll costs, interest on mortgages, rent, utilities. There's a condition that the business must keep their employees on the payroll. The enrollment is starting April 3rd, and we'll probably have to be very, very patient because the SBA's, I heard that the SBA's website has already been crashing because so many people have been going to it. So I really hope that they, are prepared for the onslaught. The loan payments can be deferred 6 months, and it's a fully forgivable loan. And in next week's edition, we will have a lot more detail and information on this type of loan and how to go about applying for it. The next one is the EIDL, the Economic Injury Disaster Loan. And here again, it's an SBA approved loan that's based on the applicant's credit score and certification of the owner that they are experiencing economic injury due to coronavirus. So here again, that caveat about documentation and really being thorough in documenting what your business is going through as a result of COVID-19. It is a low interest loan. It's 3.75% for small businesses and 2.75% for nonprofits. It offers working capital loans of up to $2 million. And like I mentioned previously, everyone who applies is eligible for fully forgivable $10,000 in an emergency grant. And these loans are also available to sole proprietors and independent contractors. So it's a little bit different from what normal SBA loans are. And they've waived a few other requirements too that we will be able to bring you in next week's edition of Employer Responsibilities Among COVID-19. So in the next slide, we see that unemployment has been expanded. It now includes self-employed people and gig workers. The states will be receiving emergency unemployment grants. The states have also been mandated to ease requirements to eliminate the work search, eliminate the waiting week, and they're expanding the definition of a good cause. And here's another one that's very important. In case of employee separation, the employer must provide notification of these new unemployment rights to benefits to the employee. And so we are, you know, like a lot of things, we're waiting for the rubric for that and the official model that the DOL wants us to use. And we will pass that on to you as that emerges. So lastly, in the last slide here, we've got our resources. The Department of Labor website is surprisingly easy and user-friendly to work with, so don't be afraid. Please go there, check it out. The IRS website as well, they're coming out with guidance every day. I'm certainly following them every day. The NFIB, which is the National Federation of Independent Business, is an indispensable resource. They absolutely advocate for small businesses, and they issue a lot of commentary and guidance. So please take advantage of that. There's the SBA website there, especially the COVID-19 small business guidance link. And then there's coronavirus.gov. Like I mentioned, those links, and on the next page, we have you know, links to the posters that you must be posting today. And on the website, you will get the Department of Labor Q&A. You'll get the Department of Labor employer responsibilities and employee rights. And then I'm also going to attach the Small Business Paycheck Protection Program. It's a little fact sheet that they put out. It's just to give you an overview of the Paycheck Protection Program. And that's it. So the last page is, you know, reiterating how we can support you during this time for a free consultation. There's our website. And from my end, I would like to thank all of you for attending today. I wish you all the best of health and safety and stability during these crucial times. And until we meet again, thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Sophia. That was fantastic. Hunter, do you want to add anything before I unmute everyone?
I just wanted to see if maybe Sophia would talk a little bit more in detail. So I know we're going to do it again next week, but one of the big pieces to the giving of the loans is going to be document. So we got to make sure that we're documenting every step, and there's a lot of details that go into getting the government to actually give you the money back on the loan. And I just think it's really important that people be prepared for maybe the government won't give you the money back. And so I've talked to a few clients that were asking, should they keep people employed for the next month, pay them even if they're not working so that they can get that loan. And I don't have a hard time saying yes to that, just because what happens if you don't get the money back? Then you're in a worse position. So I think getting more details on that, Sophia, is going to be a big, big item for people.
Yeah, it's certainly, Hunter, it's a great question, and I've really got my ear to the ground to understand what levels of documentation and how the Department of Labor wants it done. We're certainly waiting on their model documents to come out that show people exactly how these things are supposed to be documented. So I think having rubrics for, you know, handling the documentation of the request for employee sick leave, handling the documentation for small business exemptions, handling the documentation as to how you are complying with the regulations as they come out. That is all very, very important, and also still emerging. So like I said, I keep track of the Department of Labor website on an almost daily basis, and I will be collecting model documents as they come out. And as I also speak to official sources, I will be asking for that as well. So rest assured that I will follow up on that.
Sophia, Hunter, thank you so much. This is great. I just want to, I'm about to unmute everyone so we can kind of have a free discussion. But before then, if you have a question that you want to make sure that that's answered, I'll remind you that the chat feature, I'll send another message to everyone. The chat feature is available, so if you want to make sure you get your question addressed, please send something there. And with that, I'm not seeing any questions coming in. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to unmute everyone so we get to kind of have that general conversation. Or rather, what I'm going to do is I'm going to push the button that allows you to unmute yourself. So if you have any questions, please speak up.
Thank you, Maude.
Is the link for that poster that employers need to have posted, is that going to be on our website soon?
Yes.
Great.
It's
Awesome.
important also to realize that even though we're going to post it, most of our clients don't, or actually all of our clients don't qualify. They aren't required to post it, and it can be confusing. Again, DOL says that we are over 500 employees, and therefore we should not post that poster. Although small business or the IRS and the tax credits are saying that we are under 500 employees and therefore probably should post the poster. So it can be a confusing conversation to have with clients. And I think it's important that we do have that conversation. But for anybody outside of the organization that needs access to the posters, they're going to be available.
So what would you suggest we do with our current clients?
Let them know that we qualify as over 500 employees, and I would not post the poster because it'll just create more problems than it will solutions.
Okay.
So, but Farmer Tom is not a client, and he would want access to that poster, I think.
He's nodding his head. No, thank you. Are there any other questions?
Evan had a question. Evan,
You have a question? Did you want to, would you like to?
Oh, yeah. So if the companies that are under 500 employees and they are clients of ours wish to take the route of filing as a small business, when they do the reporting, when they do the tracking, will the Caputo group take that responsibility or that tracking on for the client?
We will take on the portion where we will report. You're talking about the tax credit, I believe, right?
Correct.
So the tax credit, again, falls under a different rule, which does allow each location with less than 500 employees to file for that credit. And therefore, we then become the responsible party for providing the documentation of that credit to the IRS. However, the IRS will give the money directly to the client when the client applies. So again, a little bit convoluted, but as the client applies, they just need to share with us their credit information so that we can file it on our 941. But we're happy to assist in whatever way to make that happen.
So then just to clarify for everyone, that if the small employer decides to go that route, we are not on the hook to help pay for the 80 hours of sick time or the 12 weeks of daycare pay. Sorry, I forgot the name of it. But we, the Caputo group, are not on the hook to come up with those funds while the client waits for the credit to come back, correct?
Correct, but again, you're combining the two different organizations with their different rules. So DOL says we are over 500, therefore we are exempt from the new requirements for sick leave and FMLA. And then you're also referring to the tax credit, which is an IRS tax credit. So the tax credit says that we are not considered a large group, and each one of our clients needs to file for the tax credit.
Right.
So
And I was stating that because that was a question that was brought to me separately, and my response mirrored yours.
Okay.
But I wanted that to be clear that we are not on the hook for any of these funds being paid out to employees while the company itself is waiting for the credit to come back.
Correct.
The IRS has said that it will try to expedite the credits. I'm not exactly sure what that means.
Any other?
Well, go ahead.
Oh, I apologize. Carry on. Excuse me.
Sophia, I'd like you to hop on the phone and call the IRS and wait until you get that answer.
Are there any other questions that have come up for folks, or any clarification, or even requests for us to kind of look into as we're doing research and developing content for you?
So being a hemp farmer out there, an independent hemp farmer, first of all, I've heard both sides that we weren't allowed to file, but I kind of beg to differ because we are a commodity just like corn and soy. So we definitely should be able to file. And is there anything else as hemp farmers should know going into these rough times?
Thanks, Tom. Sophia and I talked a little bit about that. And are you 100% hemp, or do you have any THC product?
No, I don't have any THC products. I'm 100% hemp. When I work with the federal government, I kind of, parted ways with that whole side of the industry and just been really focusing on hemp because it is legal and it is a commodity. And to me, it never really made sense, the whole THC game, because the tax situation with the 280E is brutal on everybody. You can't take any, probably better than anybody. So no, I only do that. I do consulting and I have an online hemp school. That's pretty much I do, I travel around and I give talks in different cities, hemp farming 101, the good, the bad, and the ugly. I get two speeches during the days for 2 hours, and they've been pretty well attended. So
Great.
you got to diversify. When you're a farmer out there, there's good years and there's bad years and there's tough times. You got to have a bunch of different outlets. No doubt about it. Diversify any way you can.
I really think the biggest piece of the puzzle that we're finding is when it comes to disaster relief, that's directly through the feds. That's the fastest loan that's coming out. They're getting released about every 7 to 10 days. So that's a great way to get working capital. But when it comes to the PPPL loans, those are going to be underwritten and they're going to take a little bit more time. And the biggest piece that we're finding, every bank that we've talked to, the hierarchy that they're typically going with is loan businesses that they already have loans with, and then businesses that they do business with. And then lastly is going to be entities that they are not associated with. So I think the biggest hurdle for the hemp farmers is going to be whether or not they already have a financial relationship with a bank that can expedite that loan. Otherwise, I do think it's going to be a longer process to get those loans. We did talk to the bank that we use for our hemp and cannabis companies, and they are not writing those loans. Again, because they don't have the federal backing. So we're finding that might be an issue with accessing or getting access to those loans. And actually, I did ask Sophia in an earlier conversation to reach out to the state and see if there's any options that the state will have. And hopefully we'll have some info probably by next week for that.
Yeah, so if you can find any workarounds for us small farmers out there, it'd be greatly appreciated.
Absolutely. We're working on it.
All right. Thank you.
Well, thank you everyone, absolutely, for the fantastic information. Sophia and Hunter, thank you for all of your hard work and all your hard research, and thank you everyone for joining us. Before we come to a close, I just want to check in. Has everyone had a chance to ask all of the questions or, express any concerns that they may be having? Fantastic. Thank you again, everyone. Absolutely, please check out our website. These will be recorded and will be posted on our website. You'll have access to a lot of information, and keep an eye out for a follow-up email that will include not only a link to a management course, Raw Leadership, should be pretty fantastic, as well as our other upcoming events. Thank you, everyone, and have a wonderful day.